Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. Welcome to Think Business Live. Jon Hannum, excited to talk to you, founder and CEO of PPS Solutions. You spent over 25 years building companies in the corporate finance career, and now you are offering fractional CFO and full service accounting to your clients. Great topic. I think the CFO role, thanks so much for being here. And your website can be found at ppsfinance.com. Let's talk about the CFO role, right? We were kind of saying right before we went on air, the role that everybody forgets about until they need it. And so let's kind of start there. Why a CFO? Let's break down the simplicity of why a CFO and why a smaller company needs a fractional CFO.
Well, I think there's a reason that in larger companies, the CFO is kind of the number two person. When you think about the org structure, CEO kind of required. You need a head to run the company, and then CFO is really the person that's right there with the CEO all the time. And you wouldn't see a large company where the CFO wasn't involved in kind of every single thing that happened, because finance touches everything. And in small companies, it's just not available. So. Small companies, the entrepreneur has to wear all the hats, and wears the CFO hat when it's required, which is tax time, or when the bank balance is not what it should be, or just when things happen from a finance perspective. So I think it's really important that they kind of focus on the fact that they could have that finance partnership earlier in the process, and that's why I educate people on the idea of fractional CFOs being accessible to smaller business at a fraction of the rate, basically.
Yeah. So let's rewind that for a minute. So a smaller company, how small is small? Like, what's the smallest a company can be before they need a fractional CFO?
It's the most difficult question to answer, but it's the first question that everybody asks.
Yeah.
So really, it's when you can afford it, right? Does every company need a little bit of CFO? Sure, but the amount that you need is really kind of setup and strategy at the beginning of that process. So even before you start your business, you could use the help of a CFO.
Yeah.
What traditionally happens is your bookkeeper or your CPA kind of sets things up for you and gets you rolling, but they're not focused on strategy. They're focused on tax and bookkeeping. So. I think if you can afford it, it's great to have somebody help you at the very beginning of that process. And then certainly, having, a high-powered CFO during your first few years of growth, under a few $1 million worth of revenue, et cetera, is probably overkill. But, I think as you can afford it, you should really put that person in, because they're going to be of value to you, not necessarily saving you their salary, although that's certainly a focus, but helping you grow, getting you... pulling those levers of valuation that it's going to make your business more valuable over time.
Yeah.
It's worthwhile expense.
Yeah. So let's talk about that, investment versus expense, right? So, to me, I look at what you do as an investment. You use the word expense. Let's kind of rewind why it's an investment and not an expense.
Well, it is an expense, but, an investment gets a return. So do you get a return out of it? If not, it is an expense. And of course, it's located physically in the accounting side on the income statement. So it's listed as an expense. But any expense that you put out there, coaching, I think, would be another great expense that I think gets, is called an investment because it gets you a return.
Yeah.
So a CFO would be a good expense in general if you hire the right CFO, because they're going to help your business make more money at the bottom line.
Yeah. All right, good. So a CFO comes into a business. I want to kind of keep it simple. So a fractional CFO comes into the business. What's their first 100 days look like?
There's certainly the first 100 days are the most frantic. We're trying to get our arms around the business. I've still not been introduced to a business. Our team has not been introduced to a business that isn't experiencing some kind of chaos. So normally there's a reason we get called in. If everything's going really well, there's a hesitancy to spend that kind of investment. But normally there's a reason we get called in. So it's a cleanup mode for the most part. We're looking at the books and records, trying to get those organized, and then it's really about setting up kind of a cadence of reporting, budget, cash flow forecast, and some goals. We look at those goals every single month. We keep you on track to accomplish your business goals.
Yeah.
After a while, after that first probably 90 or 100 days, it becomes a lot more routine and easy to manage. But those first 100 days, you might not even know what the books look like, so you can't rely on them. You might not know what KPIs or numbers, metrics you want to look at. So have those in place. It's a collaborative effort. It's not like you have a magic template.
Yeah. Hey, John, your mic changed a little bit. I don't know if you changed the setting. So, all right. So they come in, they start to clean everything up. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. So you come in, you clean everything up, you kind of get them in order, and then somebody says, "Okay, thanks for cleaning us up. I don't know if we need you anymore." What does this fractional CFO say then?
Well, I think it's always incumbent on us to sell the service, right? To figure out how we provide value, and certainly the value is very evident in that first few months because they can see a clean set of books. They see the first time they've looked at a P&L and reviewed their operations. They see all this very, very clearly. But there's also a reason that large companies don't fire their CFO as soon as they're successful as well. We do add value as we go through life. Maybe it becomes less frantic and crazy, but every time you face a business challenge, which in business is every day, you need somebody with a finance perspective to help you kind of master those challenges. So, we focus on value. We focus on being partners to the CEO or entrepreneur, and making sure that relationship is solid, because that's what's going to make us successful. If we aren't adding value, I think it's not a good investment. But hopefully you see that value as you go through, and we continue to sell the service and understand that the value is there.
Yeah. Let's talk about forecasting and then reverse engineering forecasting, and why CFOs say yes or no, to things because they're looking at the dollars. I think sometimes what I see, John, as a business coach is that people aren't forecasting enough, right, for companies, whether it's, sometimes the company as a whole does, but maybe some of the departments aren't forecasting, to the way that they could. And then when you're forecasting and you can reverse engineer things, it's easier to make decisions. I think CFOs are really good at forecasting and reverse engineering and looking at the current trends and seeing how they fit in, and projecting and forecasting, reverse engineering, and looking at all those things, which is why sometimes I think people get frustrated that when they say the CFO said no, they won't give me the money for X or Y, right? Because they're paying attention to all the nooks and crannies. And so talk a little bit about the power of not only forecasting, but continual forecasting, and then reverse engineering and kind of the daily monitoring, right, of things that and the headwinds that affect the forecasting. Can you just kind of dive into that?
Sure. And a forecast in general, budget forecasts, cash flow forecasts, all those are just tools that we use to figure out what we think is going to happen in the future. So I worked in a lot of places back in my corporate career where the CFO, the finance department, is kind of the department of no. You can't do that. And I think it's kind of it's the wrong focus. The accounting department, the finance department should always be the department of maybe.
Yeah.
Right. It's
I agree with you, by the way. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. What's it going to do for you? So first of all, you have to talk about the forecast and how it's created. If I go into a dark room and create a forecast and bring it to the business and say, here is the forecast and here's what we're going to do, nobody has buy-in. That's my forecast.
Yeah.
If the owner goes into a dark room and brings out a forecast and says, here's what we're going to do, I don't know that it's statistically valid. I don't know if it's correct. I don't know, what thought process he went in and made, what assumptions he made, and et cetera. So it's, to me, you have to have a collaborative forecast. So whether it's department heads, just the CEO and the CFO, whatever it is, you make it together, and then it's your forecast. And that forecast is going to have assumptions that you can invest, but what does that investment get you? right? If it's a machine, how many widgets does it produce, and can your sales team sell them? If it's a person, what are they going to add to the business? What value are they going to add to the business so that we can drive those assumptions? If it increases the bottom line, if it makes more profit, then we'd probably say yes to it or maybe to it. And you don't become the department of no. The most important thing, though, with your forecast is it's going to be incorrect, because only once in my life have I ever forecasted a number that came out to be almost exactly what it was. It was a great feeling. But number one, it's going to be wrong. Number two, the question is, why is it wrong? And what did we do? If we bought the machine, did it make the widgets, and did the widgets sell? If we hired the salesperson, did we sell the right amount of goods? If we did the advertising, did we see an increase in traffic? Those are the checks to your budget from actual that you need to do to make sure your business is actually functioning. And then you go back and you reforecast. Okay, well, now we need a second machine because we need more widgets, or we didn't do quite as well as we thought. Let's tune the forecast going forward. And you continually in one big loop just keep checking your forecast, making a new forecast, comparing it to actual. That's the magic of business. It's just comparing actual to expectation.
Right. It's the medicine wheel. It's the flywheel. It's the loop. Right. It's like there's always like the loop you got to see. Right. And wherever. I love that. And I love the department of maybe. And when I was in commercial real estate, I was a broker for 6 years. I sold apartment buildings, and then I ran my office in Detroit. And agents would come to me and they would say, "Hey, I'm going to this conference. Will you pay for it?" And I would say, "Well, maybe. Do you have a business plan for it? If you have a business plan and you can show me, what you're going to do before, what you're going to do after, what you're going to do before, during, and after to show me the ROI, then if you do that, then but it always started with maybe." So I love that. That was great. It really puts another new light on that. I love it. All right. So let's talk a little bit about you for a moment as an entrepreneur. Like numbers, like forecasting, nothing is a perfect science. Nothing is a straight line. Give us kind of a 60-second kind of, story of how you got to be the founder of this company.
Sure. It's actually not what I intended to do. So it's kind of it's a fortuitous story, I guess.
I just want to pause there for 1 second, because I'm a business coach and I work with solopreneurs to Fortune companies and everything in between. But I also have another company called Launch 3, which is micro on-demand courses for life, brand, and career. And it targets all ages, but the younger age, people in their kind of teens and 20s are always so worried what they're going to do, and having their whole life planned out. So I just want to kind of take 10 seconds to say, I'm so glad you said that, because that's just, I hear that over and over, and I never planned on X, but it just da-da-da-da. So for all of you listening who don't know what you want to do with your life and think you have to have it figured out, just focus on the day, your passion, what fulfills you, keep going, and it will present itself. All right. Sorry to interrupt you, Jon.
No, that's a great point. So, I always knew that I liked numbers. It was either language or numbers, and novelist seemed like something that took a long time or a lot of energy to do. So I knew I was good at numbers. Went to accounting school at the then number one accounting school in the nation. So it was pretty. I liked doing systems and numbers, and so when I entered my career, I just did that and started with the tire company, ended up spending 17 years there, growing it from literally one sales tax return in the state of Florida alone to the largest independent tire retailer in North America with $2.8 billion in revenue. This is crazy 17 years, and it got my appetite for growth, which I still love. Being an entrepreneur was not part of the equation. I liked the paycheck. I liked the bonuses that came every year when we did something interesting and great. When I took my last company public in 2018, and then ended up leaving that company in 2020 as it was kind of being pulled apart, basically. I had nothing to keep me from saying no to somebody who asked me to consult for a small company. They were having some issues, management issues, really. The finance was just the way out of it. But partnership with 30-year friends, death threats. It was awful. We fixed it with the finance. We fixed it with a buyout. But ultimately, what I realized was that small business doesn't have access to the same resources that big business does because they just have limited budgets. They also don't think about having finance and CFO and just good routine accounting, et cetera. It's all just the CPA for taxes. So I just changed my focus that day, literally, and said, I want to work with small business. I want to work with people that matter. I want to do something interesting and help small business grow and be successful. And that's been my focus for the last 4.5 years. It seems like with the ETA space, the entrepreneurship through acquisition space, that's opened up some new doors as well. So I'm working with a lot of people that are buying their first business. And so I'm educating them on the idea that finance is important, what it does, how it works, and why it integrates with all the systems. So I really feel like I'm making a difference every day. And I do love that. But it's a huge educational battle too.
Yeah, I love that. One of my favorite quotes that has led me a lot. It's the foundation of my book I wrote. Success without fulfillment equals failure. And we need fulfillment. Sometimes the chaos is too much, and I love it. All right, quick speed round. Thank you for that story, and congratulations on what you built and your success. You have a bunch of books behind you. Favorite book and why? Or a book that's behind you.
Favorite book is probably the Intermediate Accounting Guide because I do like accounting. The one that I've read most recently is Jeb Blount, Fanatical Prospecting.
So good.
I'm terrible at that, and just I put off talking to people. I love educating, but I put off talking to people, and it really reminds me that I have to. There's a huge sales curve in this business. There's nobody's clamoring for the service. You have to be educated in the service and what it is first. So that was a great book.
I love him. I refer that book a lot. Sometimes I think I'm friends with him. I refer it so much. I'd say, but he's great at what he does. His books are phenomenal. I can help you, by the way, with your sales piece, but that's for another conversation. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
Do what you like. I like numbers, so it was a natural career. I get up and do what I do every day because I like it. So don't do what you don't like. That makes you miserable.
I love that you love what you do. I love talking to people who love what they do. I always, at one point, I loved math, and I was always good at math. And for a very short time, I was an actuarial science major, very, very short.
Oh my goodness.
I couldn't get through Calc 2, and then I didn't want to calculate people's deaths, so I dropped that major, but I always loved math. But I couldn't do accounting. It was so interesting. I couldn't figure out, so accounting is it's just a different level brain. I thought I would be so good at accounting because I loved math, but I literally couldn't connect the dots. So
I think it's the opposite, actually. I think that accounting has math in it, but I can't do simple addition anymore without Excel. I literally, I think I don't like math. I like numbers.
Yeah.
And to me, accounting is a system and a language, right? Yeah. Debit and credit, and we do things in there to make it look and present correctly.
Right.
But yeah. If you asked me to do an algebra, I have a nephew that's 16 and needed help with algebra. And I looked at it and I said, I have no clue what that is.
Yeah. Today, I was so good at math, I couldn't help my kids in elementary school and middle school today. It's so different. Anyway, for another discussion, last question. One thing that everybody can do to find their fulfillment is?
Buy a business or start a business.
All right, good. Jon, thanks. This was great. I love this podcast because I'm on a mission, kind of intrinsically to help as many people as I can. I work with people who are successful and stuck. I get them unstuck. And I like to have this podcast because I get to meet with people like you all over the world that are in alignment with my mission to help as many people as we can get unstuck because the airwaves go all over the world. And so you shared a ton of stuff today to help people get unstuck, find fulfillment, which I'm always grateful for, that level of discussion. I think it runs at a very high frequency and vibration and resonates at a very, very high level and gets people moving. So thank you for that. Congratulations on your business. The community, I'll extract one more thing that Jon shared. There's things in life and in business that are black and white, but mostly we live in the gray. So don't forget to live in the maybe. That is really, really important. And I love that. Jon, tell everybody where they can connect with you. Your website is ppsfinance.com, but tell people how they can connect with you, learn more, and call you if they want to learn use you for your services.
Sure, that is the website is the best way. So PPS for people, process, systems, because I believe success happens in that order. ppsfinance.com. You can book an appointment with us, and I'll say, even if we don't, go through and have a CFO relationship, I love helping business do something. So if you have a question, your CPA is not really the right person to ask. You want to ask business strategy, something to do with finance, I'm happy to answer any questions. So go to the website, ppsfinance.com, and send me a note there. It's the easiest way.
That's great. And Think community, if you want to talk about coaching, you can reach me at jondwoskin.com. Jon, this was great. Stay on for a minute. We'll catch up. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jon.
Thank you.